There's really two types of people in the world. There are people that have money, and then there are people that don't have money. Sounds cliche. But each one of those two people with money and people that don't have money or people that need money, each one of them have the ability to solve the problems of the other person. And in doing so, they have the ability to create something that we all talk about a lot, and that is passive income. So, do you want to create passive income? Do you want more passive income? But you think that you need a big lump sum in order to do that, because that's the common misconception. The most common misconception is that you need a big lump sum of money to start, which really you don't. You need one of two things. You do either need the money, the big lump sum, or you need the opportunity, because a big lump sum doesn't do anything without an opportunity. So when you bring those two together, you got yourself a pretty cool thing. And the most common form of this is real estate. Real estate has, I guess, for probably the longest period of time, been one of the number one sources of what people would call passive income. Now, I don't believe passive income really exists in the state that we want it to believe in. I don't know as if there's really any income that's truly 100% passive, because we have to work for something, or we had to put the time and energy into it for it then to become quote unquote passive. I love it when real estate investors come to me and they say that they have a bunch of rentals and it's all passive. No, it's not. What happens when something breaks? What happens when a hurricane hits your rentals? Is that passive? Nope, because your phone's ringing. You got to figure things out. It takes your time. That makes it not passive. But we can call it whatever we want. The one thing I do know is that real estate is one of the greatest investments on earth, and it provides a really, really cool opportunity. See, I've been on both sides of that equation. I've been on the side where I didn't have money, but I needed it to make opportunities happen. I needed it when I started in real estate. I didn't have money, so I had to find people on the other side of the street that had money, because I had the opportunity. I had the real estate deal. And I put a lot of time, energy, and education into knowing how to find those unique opportunities, because in real estate, the money's made on the buy, not the sell. I knew how to buy them, and I knew how to buy them at the right price. So now that I had them under contract, I controlled them, I then needed to understand how to get the money for them. So I had to find people that had the money that then could make my opportunity real. And I got pretty good at this. Matter of fact, I even wrote a book on it called The Private Money Guide, which really showed you how to be a good borrower, okay? First off, how to find the opportunity, how to present the opportunity, how to do all the things that I would need to get the interest of a lender. Now, that lender came in many shapes and sizes. At first, it was the banks, because that's just what we're taught, right? When we need money, we go to the good old-fashioned traditional bank. But once you start going to the bank, you realize how crappy the banks really are. They make you jump through this hoop and that hoop. They make promises, and then they go back on their promises. Then they give you what they said is the best deal they're going to, which for you basically sucks. So that led me down the path of institutional investors and hard money investors. And I realized there's all sorts of problems there, very similar to that of the banks. And then you know what I found out? I found out the best people for me to help were people just like me, the average person, okay? The middle class person that maybe had saved a little bit of money and wants to make that money go to work for them, because their goal was always the same as what my goal was. We both wanted to make money. So what I started doing is getting really good at building a stable of private money lenders. And because I had the opportunity and they had the money, it was a very, very good fit. So what if I told you this? The ultimate in real estate is being the bank. Do you know where that comes from? Well, a mentor of mine once told me that. He said, Chris, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. I had no idea what that meant, but I started to see that, because these institutional lenders, these banks, the traditional banks, and these private lenders, they always seem to make a little more money with a lot less work. Even the best deals I did, I felt like the private lenders, the institutional lenders, all of them seemed to just get the better deal, because they didn't have to do all the hard work. And they had basically the only risk they had was me screwing up, okay? But then they were still in control of the deal. So if I didn't pay them, they were in control of my real estate deal. They had a lien on it. So I was the one doing all the work, putting in all the risk, and they were the ones just coming in and just saying, hey, I'm the bank. Let me help you make your opportunity real. But in turn, what I realized is I was actually helping make their opportunity real. So I hate the word passive, because you do have to work for it. So get that word passive right. Passive does not mean no work. Passive does not mean sitting on your ass and doing nothing. Passive means you got to put the work in. I don't care if the work is put in prior to the income showing up or the work is put in continuously while you receive the income for doing it. But that's for sure. Passive income isn't completely passive because it requires you to work for it. So there's two components to this. One of two things, money or time. Money or time. You got to have one of those. As a real estate investor, I had the time because that was the business I was in. I spent the time to find the opportunities, to find the deals, to go out and do the marketing, to go out and pound the doors, to build the relationships, to do that, which was, what was that? Find the best deals at the best price. Then I switched. I pivoted from the person that needed money to the person that had money. I was now that guy across the street that had the money. And what I wanted to do is the same thing all the other folks wanted to do. I wanted to be the bank. So what I started doing is I started looking for people that were just like me back in the day. People that had the time, that had the expertise, and that were finding the really good deals. And then I basically said, hey, I've got the money. Let's do this deal. And we came together and I started lending to them. And I became the bank. You see, it doesn't matter what side you're on. You can be the person that needs money, but you still can be seeking passive income. Or you can be the person that has money and you can still then seek passive income. But passive income, you must understand, it's not just rentals. Passive income and rentals both take work. People who succeed are not passive. I've never met any people out there that are passive, that are wildly successful. They don't just sit on their ass doing nothing. They don't just watch the sports games all day, every day. You know, on average, if you study different books that talk about the studies that have been done on millionaires and multimillionaires, they all work over 60 hours a week. And they've got all the money. They don't have to work, but they do. You know what else wealthy people do? They continuously improve. They're constantly learning. They're constantly reading. They're constantly testing themselves. They spend a minimum of 2 hours every day trying to learn something new. Another thing that successful people do based on all these studies is they constantly keep their machine, their body in good health. Because they found that by being in that good health state, eating well, resting, sleeping, if you want to call it that, they were able to accomplish more every day. And that was success to them. So you will get to a point, folks, where money isn't your driving force. Now, I know that you don't understand that because I didn't understand that back then. You'd be like, money is the reason. I need more money. I need more things. No, that is not the things. Because when you have the money and you have the things, when you have the car that you've always dreamt about, you live in the mansion that you've always dreamt about, it's not about money anymore. And you might just be saying, oh, it's just because you have those things. No. Your priorities change. You start thinking differently. You start looking at how can you help others? How can you give more? How can you do more? But you never stop learning. You never stop pushing. You never stop being, the person that you are meant to be. You never become passive. Wealthy people, although they might make what we would call passive income, they are not passive. So let me talk to you about something that I'm wildly excited about. Something that is everything to do with what we just talked about. People with money and people that need money. The needs of both of them, the desires of both, and how each of them need one another. And about how being the bank puts you back in control of your money. So if we take all of those equations and we really just look at that one example, I want you to imagine the person that needs money is on one side of the street. The person that has money is on the other. The only thing that's lacking in that equation is connection in the middle. Doesn't that sound a lot like a dating site? It does, right? There's men and women. You can do one on one side, one on the other. And all they're lacking is the connection. And then they can go off and they can get married and live happily ever after. So what I did is I started tinkering around and playing around with this idea of a dating site. But a dating site for money and for deals. A dating site for private lenders to connect with borrowers. A dating site of lenders, people with money, and a dating site that brings together borrowers who have the opportunity. And then the lenders can basically be the bank for the borrowers. And the borrowers can be the borrowers for the bank. Do you see what I'm saying? I created a dating site for money. So the Private Money Club, we literally just launched it. You can go on and get the app. Just go into any of the app stores and just type in PMC and there it is. Or you can just go to privatemoneyclub.com and you can check out the first of its kind, the dating site for money. And hopefully that will help solve some of your problems. I hope you enjoyed the lesson that came along with this video. And I hope you're willing to put the time, effort, and energy into doing something more. No matter how much you want passive income, just remember, passive income takes work. Do you trust big banks? Do you trust Wall Street? Do you trust much of anything anymore? Right now, there's a lot of distrust in institutions, a lot of distrust in American banking. Once in a lifetime, an idea comes around that changes everything. This is 2022. That idea is here. The way that you use money, the way that you make money, and the way that you get money for everything you do is about to change. So I want you to think about the last time you needed money for that investment property, that duplex, that house that you were going to buy to make money. Not so much your primary house, not just yet, but I'm talking about the investment properties that you all have been looking at. Well, a lot of you are thinking, well, I'd go to the bank and I'd apply at the bank. And the bank's going to run you through this long, difficult process. They're going to look at you inside and out. They're going to look at your finances upside down and backwards. They're going to make you do personal financial statements. They're going to make sure that you fit in their little square box. And guess what? Banks want to lend to people that don't need money. So if you need money, the bank probably doesn't want to give you money. So what's the second alternative? Well, you could go to an institutional hard money lender. Many real estate investors have used them, but what are the problems? They also run you through lots of checks and balances. They also want to make sure that you don't need the money. They want you to put a whole bunch of money in the deal. And the biggest problem with hard money lenders are fees, 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 and more fees. Not only that, they'll tell you they're going to give you one amount, and then when it comes back, they say, oh, we can't give you that much because our team has said that the property's only worth this much, and you thought it was worth that much. So the surprise comes up, and a lot of people have to bail out of the property, cancel the contract, or seek alternative ways. What are those alternative ways? Maybe you go to your friends, but sometimes they don't trust you. Maybe you go to your family. That usually doesn't end well. Maybe you go to coworkers. That's all great, right? But the key to the way all of this works is there's really only two types of people out there. Think about it. There's people that have money, okay? They've worked hard, they've had some good things, maybe they've exited a company, made a bunch of money, so they have money. You know what their goal is? To make more. They don't want just what they have, they want more. We're talking about two sides of a coin, heads and tails. People that have money that want to make more money are the heads. Who's on the other side? Who's on the tail side of the coin? People that need money. People that need money to make more money. Maybe they need money to buy the piece of real estate. Maybe they need money to make the investment. Maybe they need money to start their company. So we already discussed where those people that need money traditionally go. Banks, hard money lenders, and maybe your close inner circle. But what happens when none of that works? Well, what happens is you have to learn, you have to evolve. You have to realize that things need to change. Because we've always served the institutions. The banks make all the money. What do? We give up our money that we work hard for and we give it over to the bank so that the bank can make our money that we work for go to work for them. And the bank makes 400 to 1,300% more than you and I do. It's their game, that's their business. They're smarter than we are. They know things we don't know. That's just what they want you to believe, because that's not the truth. You can do exactly what a bank does. You certainly can be your own bank. You can mimic everything a bank does. You can actually do the same thing that a bank does. Oh, but you're thinking,
no, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, that's too difficult.
What if it wasn't? What if there was something, a software, a community that changed everything? What if there was a community that brought people that have money, that want to make money, together with people that need money to make money, and those two people came together just like a dating site? What if there was a dating site for money? Once a lifetime, something comes around that changes everything. The institutions can't continue to control your life, your money, and your freedom, but they will if you allow it. This is the time, this is where we make our stand. This time right now, 2022, is become apparent that it's us versus them. It has become apparent that now is the time we need to start looking at things a lot differently. We need a dating site for money. We need a community of people that have money and people that need money. They all can come together in the middle and everybody makes money. Money is just the tool. And people that have the tool, they need to make that tool go to work. It's existed for years. It's existed in a beta form that nobody has known about because it's only been us. It's been us versus them, testing this, trying this, seeing the potential of how this will change everything in the future. Everything about how money moves, who controls it, and who makes money work for them. At this point, it's always been the banks, but that's about to change because you are about to become the bank. And this community, this dating site for money, this revolution is called Private Money Club. You could follow the herd or you can be the leader of the herd. Which one are you going to be? Those that are successful, the financially secure, the wealthy, those that you look at as being rich, what did they do different than the other 95% that are unsuccessful? That maybe other people would say they've failed, which they really haven't failed because the only way to fail is to quit. But they're just not financially secure. What is the difference? Well, the difference is creation. The 5% that are financially successful have created. The 95% that are unsuccessful financially have conformed. They've conformed to somebody's failed realities, somebody's failed dreams, somebody's failed plan. But they just follow because they make up one of 3 different types of people. There are the creators, those that have gone out, created companies, created ideas, created businesses, created something, and that has put them in a position where now they have wealth. They have money. But that doesn't mean they have no problems. They have one problem, which I mentioned earlier, and that is they need to make more money. That money needs to work for them to make more money because they have evolved and learned some things that the rest of us need to learn. They have created. Second, you've got the doers. We love the doers. The doers are the ones that will be the next Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 CEOs. They're the ones that are out there that are doing what the others are unwilling to do. But the doers need something that they don't have right now, and that is capital. They need money. And money can only come from one place, and that is the creators that have created something and have the money. The doers will be the next creators. Third, you have those that are unsure, the ones that just don't know, the ones that are trying to figure it out. We're going to call them the dreamers. They spend a lot of time dreaming. They dream about being the doers. They dream about being the creators. They've got the ideas, but they simply don't know what to do next. Dreamers conform because their dreams don't come to reality. And their dreams don't come to reality because they had bad ideas, bad dreams. No, their dreams don't come to reality because they didn't take action. They didn't apply the knowledge that they've gotten. They sat around and dreamed and wondered why things didn't just magically happen. If you want to go from a dreamer to a doer, mimic what the doers do. If you want to go from a doer to a creator, mimic what the creators do. It's not that difficult. It's the process of wealth creation. This community of people that have money and people that need money brings the creators, the doers, and the dreamers together in one place. You can then learn how to be the person you've always dreamt of being. But if you keep dreaming, you keep conforming, you keep following other people's failed realities because they tell you that's a stupid idea, then you will always remain where you're at. You will never get where you want to go. We have to change things. We have to change the way money works. We have to stop the lies and start understanding the path to success. If you go out there and you focus your time, your energy, and everything you've got on solving somebody else's problems, you will solve your own problem. So let's start with one, because it's an industry that I know and it's an industry you can make a ton of money in. It's going to require somebody that's got a little bit of time and a little bit of money. I like to call this bird dogging. Any of you ever seen a video, or maybe you've even done it, where you're hunting for ducks? Obviously I don't, I'm vegetarian, but maybe you have. You hunt for ducks, you got your dog with you. You shoot the duck, it falls in the water, the dog jumps in, happy as hell, because it just wants to solve your problem because you ain't getting in that cold water. And the dog, happy, runs back, drops the duck, sits there, with that wagging tail. I've seen the videos. Pretty cool. So bird dogging works for the dog getting the bird, but it also works in real estate. Because I know a lot of really successful real estate investors. They've made a ton of money in real estate. You know what their number one problem has resulted into today? They don't have any time left. So when you don't have time left, you don't have time to go out and do the things you did in the beginning, which was go out and find the good deal, cultivate the deals, locate the good deals. Because money that you make in real estate is made from one thing, and it's the purchase. The buy is where you make money, not the sale. A lot of people think, oh, you make all your money when you sell the property. No, that's just when you get the money. The money's made on the buy. If you don't buy it at the right price, you're not going to make any money. So what does a bird dogger do? Well, just like that dog that jumped in and went and got the bird, you're going to go out and find the property for the real estate investor that's got all the money. And they will pay you handsomely to go fetch the properties and do the legwork. Because again, there's only 24 hours in the day, and there's so few of those hours that we have to trade. The busier people get, the deeper in their business they get, the more problems they're trying to solve, the less time they have to do the one most important thing is locate the deal. So you want to make a ton of money and you got a little bit of cash? Learn wholesaling. Learn how to locate deals, learn how to negotiate the deals, and then take the contract to the big real estate investors and they will pay you, I can call it a bird dogging fee or a wholesale fee by today's standards. And how much could that be? On the low side, back in my day when I was doing this, it was $500. And that was just for bringing a deal to the person. I didn't have to do anything. I just, hey, I identified a deal. Here it is. Can I have my bird dog fee? But it's evolved now because people have gotten smart. And now you can actually lock the property up with a contract, put $100 down, or if you're smart enough with creative financing, put nothing down. Bring that contract, which gives you the right to buy that property, to a big investor, maybe even a hedge fund, and say, hey, look what I found. Kind of like the dog. You're wagging your tail. Look what I found. It's a good one. It's a good one. I did good. I did good. How much are you going to pay me? And that can go from $5,000 and gosh, I've seen it north of 6 digits. So imagine that. You spend your time in 2022 going out and locating just one deal, but let's say it's a really good deal that you spend a lot of time and energy to build and find and cultivate. You take that deal to a hedge fund and they pay you $60,000. That's one deal, and that's a whole year's salary for most people that work. One of the most common questions I get asked is, what is the best way to find a private lender? I mean, how the heck do I find people to give me their money? So today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about this question that everybody seems to be asking. By the end of this video, you're gonna know how you're never gonna have to use your own money. And you'll be able to find the person to fund your deal. I'm Chris Naugle, and I'm here to teach you how to be your own bank. The first thing you need to be doing is you gotta solve a problem. And you know what, the one great part about this is all people with money have the same darn problem. They all want to make more of it. So that's what the problem is that you have to solve. You have to show people with money how to make more. And that should be an easy task because you've got the ultimate way to do that. You've got a real estate deal that you need money for. So the second thing is, how can you be better than everybody else at solving their problem? Well, it really comes down to how you present the opportunity. See, your deal is the opportunity to solve their problem. So how are you going to show that deal to the person with money? One common mistake that people make is they just bring a deal. I remember I've gotten deals before where they literally just had the deal's address on a piece of paper and they said, can I borrow $200,000? No. Have you ever gone to a bank? Does the bank just give you money without asking you a whole bunch of questions and making it so you have to bring a bunch of information? Absolutely not. So the thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put your deal together in a very simple way so that it answers all the lender's questions. You don't want the lender to have to ask you questions. Every time they ask a question, it's because you failed to give them the answer before they asked for it. So let me go into an example on that. When you bring a deal to a lender, let's just say I'm the lender for your deal. I want to know about the deal. That's not the biggest thing I want to know. See, I'm not just investing in your deal. The deal is the security. I'm investing in you. So I want to know about you. I want to know what's your experience. Why would you be a good steward of the money I'm going to give you? How do I know I'm going to get my money back? Because it's not just about the return I'm going to get, it's about when I'm going to get my money back. And I want to know how that money is going to come back to me. Not only that, I want to know, do you really need my money? What do I mean by that? Because you're probably thinking, well, of course, I wouldn't ask if I didn't need it, but that's not the way to handle that. I want to know that you have some of your own money. I want to know that if things get rough, you're going to be able to continue to pay my interest to me for an extended period of time, even longer than what you think the deal is going to take. Because most deals, if you say you're going to finish it in 6 months, I know it's going to take you 12. Now, if you finish it in 6, I'll be impressed. So these are the questions I would want answered as a lender. I want you to tell me how you're going to pay me my interest payments. I want you to tell me how you're going to exit this deal. And if that exit fails, what's plan B and plan C? How am I getting my money back? And I want you to demonstrate and show me in the packet, where is your money? What is your income? What are your assets? They call it a personal financial statement. So I want to see everything. I even want to see your tax returns. What is your credit score? Because that matters. Because if you got a bad credit score, that means you haven't been so good at paying other people. I don't really care about your credit score at all. I just want to make sure I'm going to get paid. Along with all of that, the third thing I'll bring up is building relationships. You got to connect with people who have a reputation and credibility. So when I say building relationships, so with every lender, you're building a relationship. Think of it like dating. If you're going to go on a date, you're going to build a relationship to the person you're going on that date. And sometimes that relationship is built before the first date. The same thing with lending. If I'm going to lend you money, then I want to know you and I want to build a relationship with you, because I don't want to think of this as a one and done. This is not going to be a one-night stand. I want to lend money to you on this deal and your next deal and your next deal and your next deal, because it's a lot easier for me to build a relationship with you and go deeper into that relationship than it is for me to just kind of have one-night stands with a whole bunch of other people that just want to do one-off deals. Does that make sense? The relationship matters, but what else matters is your credibility, your reputation. So here's the thing I will tell you, and this might come as a shock. If you've never done a deal, or maybe this is your first or second deal and you come to me looking for money, I don't want to lend to you because you don't have enough experience. You haven't built credibility yet. And I'm not trying to put you in a negative place or put you in a difficult place, but here's what you could do to combat that. If I won't lend to you because you don't have the history and the experience I'm looking for, what if you went to somebody and you actually partnered with them, somebody that does have that reputation, somebody that has done lots of deals? You might have to give up some of your deal, but now you've got their reputation and credibility. Now I'm willing to lend. Not only that, now I have two people on the line, so I'm double protected. Let me give you an example. There's this one borrower that does a ton of deals through Private Money Club. We lend a lot of money on his deals. He's become a crowd favorite among all the members in Private Money Club. They all want to lend on his deals because he's built a reputation. He's never missed a payment. He's always had solid deals. Nobody's ever lost money and nobody's ever had any complaints about him, and he's done hundreds of deals. So, isn't that the kind of person you'd want to partner with? Well, he does. He partners with other investors because he only has so much time in the day. So he partners with investors that go out and find the deals. They bring the deals to him. He uses his credibility to then get money from us, from myself and a lot of other lenders on Private Money Club. So in doing that, that person that brings him the deal probably gives up a percentage of the deal. But because of that, they get the money to do the deal. So this investor has figured it out. But you know who's benefited? All the other investors he's partnered with. Because as he rises, they rise, right? When the tide goes up, all boats go up. So find somebody to partner with if you're at that point where you just haven't built a reputation, you're just getting started, and you're really looking for that next step. So the fourth thing I would say would be the ultimate. Before all this other stuff, wouldn't it just be nice to know where all the lenders are? Well, let's talk about the old way. Right, back in the old day, when I wanted money, I would have to go out there and build relationships. I would go to RIAs. I'd go to anywhere I could where people with money went. And I would tell them about my opportunity. Sometimes it was at the bar, just telling them, hey, I got this great deal, blah, blah, blah. I can solve a problem for you. That was hard, though. So if I had a deal and I had to close in a week, well, either I'm going to be going to the bar a lot or waiting for RIAs, and hopefully they hit it at exactly the right time. It was just difficult. It was the old way of doing things. But let's talk about the new way. You ever see a dating site or use a dating site? It doesn't matter which one. There's two parties. There's a guy and there's a girl. They both have profiles that explain everything that they're looking for, explain what they are, who they are. There's photos to show what they look like. And then they communicate in a little chat room and they go off on a date and live happily ever after, or don't. Well, how come there isn't a dating site for money? Wouldn't it be easy if there was a place where all the people with money that want to make money were, and they had profiles and you can read and you can see photos and you can learn exactly what their problem was that they wanted solved. And then on the other side, there was people that needed money to make money. Maybe that's you. And in the middle, you just come together, you communicate, you follow a process to get your deal funded. But that doesn't exist, does it? It does now. It's called Private Money Club. I've been mentioning it throughout this entire video, and now it's real. There's been tens of millions of dollars of deal flow that's run through it. It's called privatemoneyclub.com, and it's a dating site for money. Think of Tinder. Swipe left, swipe right. Imagine if you're a borrower and you just swipe left through all the lenders and you look, ooh, there's one I like, and you swipe right and it notifies the borrower and you guys start talking. And then you need another one. Swipe left, swipe right. Exactly what it is. We've solved the problem for you. We've brought the private lenders to one place where you then can apply all these other rules. So let's just do a quick recap to what those rules were for private lending. So rule number one was always start with solving a problem. And remember, that was easy because people with money have the same problem. They want to make more. Number two, how can you be better at solving the problem than everybody else? That was where I talked to you about putting your deal together, answering all the questions without them having to ask them. Number three, building relationships, connecting with people that have your reputation and credibility, if it's not yourself. And number four, I talked about how nice it would be if all the lenders were just in one place, and I talked about the old way. And finally, number five was the new way, privatemoneyclub.com. Check it out. You ever feel like you don't have control of your real estate business or your money? That's right. The big banks and the institutions, they're in control, right? I know you felt that before. Private Money Club puts you back in the driver's seat. As members often tell us, it's a total game changer. Join the community of like-minded lenders and borrowers by going to privatemoneyclub.com. Sign up. The financial playground is changing rapidly. It's full of uncertainty. It's full of dangerous and risky places for your money. We really got to start changing the way that we use and think about money. Matter of fact, it's time for you to rethink money, and that time is now. So let's talk about how you can change one thing that allows you to change everything. So the environment that we live in, the world we live in, is drastically different than it was just 10 years ago. Massively different than it was 20 or 30 years ago. Ask your parents, your grandparents. We live in a weird time where this period of time is all about you giving up control. All about you conforming to somebody else's failed realities, somebody else's failed dreams, because we're not supposed to live out our own dreams. We're supposed to plug into a system, sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. Sit down! Shut up! Starts with one of the most important things, money. When I say that word, how did you feel? Did you feel uncomfortable? Did you feel unsettled? Did you get excited? Because if I said words like mom, how'd you feel then? Love. Taxes. What if I said colonoscopy? Some of you would get a weird feeling. Back to the main point, money. Money makes a lot of people uncomfortable. We have been taught, conditioned, and trained very well to do one thing with the money that we work really hard for. We've been taught to give up control. Where's the first place that money goes? That's right, the traditional bank, somebody else's bank. And what does the bank do? Do they take your hard-earned dollars that you just gave them and put it in a little box with your name on it, back nice and cozy in that safe? No.
We can put that check in a money market mutual fund. Then we'll reinvest the earnings into foreign currency accounts with compounding interest, and it's gone. What? It's gone. It's all gone.
They take your money and they send it to work for them. And in doing so, they make a spread. They pay you, well, this is kind of funny and don't mean to rub it in, but next to nothing, if not nothing on your money. And then what do? They lend it out. And as interest rates go up because of our lovely Fed destroying the one thing they created called inflation, now everything you want to buy, all those loans that you want, cost more. But your money's not making more. This is what I'm talking about. This is a broken system, and you are plugged into it. And many people think this is all there is, and it is not. The wealthy play a different game. But you see, nothing will change with the way you use money, with the way you think about money, and the way you live your life until you change it. In life, there are things that happen, usually once a lifetime, maybe sometimes once a decade, and those things change everything. Think about it. Bezos got the idea to sell books online because when he went to the bookstores, there were always titles that he couldn't get. So he said, why wouldn't I take and put books online so that people can have the universe of books available to them? One simple idea changed the world. Because as you know, Amazon today doesn't just sell books, it sells everything. Bezos changed the world. Another person you know of, Steve Jobs, had the idea to change the world, and he did it. First with the Mac, then he did it with putting music in your pocket. 10,000 songs in your pocket. Back then, that was revolutionary. Because all of us, if you're old enough, we went to the store and we bought CDs. Then all of a sudden music went online and we were using it, but there was problems. He took that idea and changed the world. He went on to change the world with things like phones, iPads. He was crazy enough to change the world. But what hasn't changed for a very long period of time is the way we think about money, the way we use money, the way that money transfers. You see, all the control has always been with the big guys, the institutions, the banks, and as you know, Wall Street. And right now, those traditional systems have failed you. Oh, no, they haven't? Great. You don't believe they've failed you? Look at your 401k statement. Look at your bank statement. Why is it that when interest rates go up, your bank isn't paying you anymore? Folks, you don't think that's a problem? Inflation's 8.5. Interest rates are going up. We've had 4 interest rate hikes, 1 more on the way, and then a bunch more after that. Everything is costing more except for your money in their control is paying you less. And you just go about your life thinking everything's good? Because it ain't. It ain't good. You got to start to rethink money. Like I said, once a lifetime, something happens that changes everything. What if there was a place where you could go for money, or you could make your current money, your savings, go to work for you? You see, back in the day, I used to use dating sites, much like many of you have. Now, don't make an assumption or any opinion because I use dating sites. I was single. I was a pro snowboarder, and it was really cool. It was fun, and it made a lot of sense. 2 people, men and women, they come together on one platform, one community, and each person knows what the other person wants because the other person was able to put up what they're looking for, what their values are, who they are, and then show photos. So when I was a snowboarder, if I was traveling to Colorado or Utah, I would use dating sites to have someone to hang out with. And it worked. And it was fun. Later in life, and just so you know, I don't use them anymore. I got married. But later in life, I was posed a problem with money. You see, when I needed money for real estate deals or the other things, I only knew of one source, and that was the banks. But in 2014, the banks failed me like they fail you. I had to start thinking differently. So I started borrowing money from private institutions, hard money lenders, and eventually private lenders. When I started using money from private lenders, it made more sense because it was a symbiotic relationship. I needed money to make more money. The lender, which was just an average person who had a little money saved and they wanted their money to work for them, had a problem, and that was their money that they had. They wanted to make more of it by making their money work. I never really put it all together, but one day I crossed the point where I was the bank. I now had the money, and I wanted to find people that needed the money, just like I went to those private lenders, those institutions, and everybody else. When I needed money, I had to find a way to make my money work. And I thought it would be easy, but it wasn't. See, the pool of people that needed money didn't understand how money worked. They didn't understand how to be a borrower, and they would send me garbage. So my money sat there waiting for direction of where it was going to go to work next. And I got thinking to myself one day, a day just like this, probably had a beer in my hand, and I thought to myself, why isn't there a dating site for money? Because in a dating site, it was so easy. I knew what I wanted, they knew what they wanted. Came together in the middle, went through a process, and then everything worked. Or it didn't. But I was in control of that entire transaction because of somebody creating a platform, a community where we could come together. When I had money, I wanted that same platform, that same experience. I wanted a dating site, but I wanted a dating site for money. If I needed money, I wanted to know where all the other people like me were that had money, and then we could create a relationship. It was a win-win relationship. Not like today where you go to the bank, it's a win-lose situation because the bank wins, you lose. I wanted a win-win. I wanted my problem solved. If I needed money, that was finding someone to lend me the money so I could make money. And then on the other side, that person solved their problem as well. And their problem was their money got to go to work and make them more. All I did is I solved my problem. I solved my problem, and then I learned after I did that, there were other people with the same problems. I don't care what side of that coin you're on. I don't care if you're the person that has money and you want to make more money, or you're the person that needs money to make more money. The current systems, the current places for you to obtain and solve those problems are broken. If you need money, the banks are broken. They're in control and they don't want to lend money to you because they don't have to anymore. If you're somebody that has money, Wall Street has been the ultimate solution, but until now, where it's not. There's too much fear and uncertainty, too much risk in Wall Street right now. So where do those people make their money go to work? Well, why don't we just start with where the bank puts their money? I should say where the bank puts your money. The bank lends money. So somebody that has money and somebody that needs money now can come together in a single community to solve each other's problems without the big institutions winning. It is a true win-win proposition. That place exists. It is called Private Money Club. It's been around for 2 years in beta. Private Money Club is nothing more than the dating site for money. If you're somebody that has money and you want to make money, you can go on and you can swipe left through all the potential opportunities, all the real estate deals that are on there. And then, when you find one you like, you swipe right. You guys all know where that came from. And then that swipe right notifies the borrower, and then you engage in a conversation. You discuss whether or not that symbiotic relationship is going to make sense, and then you go through a process that keeps you on the straight and narrow path so you don't make mistakes. But what if you're a borrower and you need money? Same thing. You swipe left through all the private lenders, not the institutions, the private lenders, and you just look through, you read the profiles. When you find one you like, you swipe right. That lender is notified. You send them your deal, or they've already reviewed your deal. You come together and you walk through a process. You see, folks, it took rethinking money. It took rethinking the current way we use money to come up with this. But what it took is creation. I had to create the idea in my mind. Some people call it a dream, but a dream is not any good if it doesn't have action behind it. You see, creation is the real word. I created a solution to my problem. I then created a solution for a lot of other people's problems that I didn't know I was doing that. I didn't know what other people had the same problem. And whatever you are creating to solve your problems, you might be able to solve other people's problems. But my problem was in the money space. Today, I have set out to change the way money works forever. If Bezos can change the world of how we buy things with books online, I can change the way we use money forever by simply solving a simple problem. By creating a dating site for money. Today it might just be real estate. We might just solve real estate investors' problems. But in the future it might solve the problem for people that need car loans. It might solve the problem for people that want to start their new business and they need funding. The whole idea is to put the control back in the right people's hands. We, the people. Not we, the institutions, not we, the Wall Street, not we, the banks, we, the people. And in doing that, we get to become the bank. That's pretty powerful, isn't it? It's pretty cool to think about that. A world where we're in control of our money. We control the outcome of what happens with our money. We control the relationships in which our money operates. We control the environment. Today, that doesn't exist. But tomorrow it will. Let me tell you who Private Money Club is not for. It's not for those out there that want to take. It's not for those out there that want everything given to them. It's not for those out there that just want to conform and follow conformity. This change, this revolution, this concept is for those that want to rethink money and those that want to be in control. I hope I'm talking to the majority of the people out there, because if I'm not, we got much bigger problems we have to face. Because if you're somebody that wants to conform, I don't even know why you're watching my videos. But if you're someone that wants to create the future your family deserves, create your dreams and turn them into reality, I'm talking to you. You deserve this community, you deserve this platform, and you deserve to be back in control of your money. You need to be your own bank. So you're probably thinking, how do I take part in this? All right, go to privatemoneyclub.com. Check it out. So let me give you an example of a real client. It's actually a husband and wife, Mary and Charles. So we call it the Bank of C&M Jones. These were just average people who didn't have a whole lot of money in their retirement. They had about $350,000 saved up, and they were 10 years from retirement. They were maxing out their old 401ks, but they both left their jobs. One lost their job, the other left their job. So they now had this money and they needed something to do. Well, they watched us explain what a self-directed IRA was and how they could become their own bank, and they took advantage of it. They rolled those IRA accounts into a self-directed IRA account. They continued to make the maximum contributions that they could, and over the next 10 years, their money grew from $350,000 to over $1 million. How did they do that? Well, they didn't invest in something that they didn't know, like, and understand. What they did is they became the bank. They started lending that money out on real estate because they both understood real estate. They had a house and they'd bought investment properties. So they understood this, but now they didn't have to own the property. They just lent on the property, and they lent it out at 9%. So how did they go from $350,000 to about $1,086,000? That's it. They became the bank. But that's not the best part about it. You see, just because they had over $1 million, that didn't solve their problem. When they retired, what they did is they continued to lend that money out at 9%. So that meant that they made an income of $96,000 a year. That's $7,600 every single month, give or take a few dollars. $7,600 every month, over $96,000 a year. And the one thing that they did not do is touch their principal. Never once did that $1 million, that over $1 million, get drawn down. All they did is made that money work for them. So all that Charles and Mary did different than you is they changed where their money went. They didn't put their money in some account that they weren't in control of like most people do. They changed that money and put it into a self-directed IRA that they were in full control. And then they started to do something that they know, liked, and understood, which was lending that money out on real estate. You can do the same thing. Maybe it's not real estate. Maybe it's crypto for you. Maybe it's not crypto. Maybe it's stocks. Doesn't matter. You can invest that money in anything. Pre-2008, I knew a lot of people that were making a ton of money flipping houses. They were doing exactly what I just told you, buying houses with little to no money out of pocket, waiting for them to appreciate, and selling them. Some were doing very little renovations. It just kept repeating. They kept making more money until all of a sudden the music stopped. And then the Great Recession happened. Those houses that were worth a lot all of a sudden were not worth nearly what they were. They dropped in value tremendously. So now let's fast forward to 2022 and let's just look at the events that have happened leading up to this very point where your house is probably worth the most that it will be worth in the next decade. And I know you're saying, oh, that's not even going to happen. Well, let me make my point and then you can make your assumption as to what your house is going to be worth. You see, we had this thing called the pandemic. Things were humming along pretty good. The economy was growing. The stock market was doing fairly well. And then all of a sudden, this thing happened, COVID. And the whole world shut down. Every business stopped. If you got in your car and you drove, there was one or two other cars. It was severe. That created a whole bunch of fear. The stock market dropped 34% in weeks. And everybody was freaking out. What's going to happen? Is this going to keep going? Is the whole thing going to crash? Are we going to be shut down forever? What am I going to do? Is my business going to fail? What am I going to do to pay my mortgage? People fell behind in mortgage payments and everything started to spiral downward. And then the Fed steps in. And the Fed says, what we're going to do is we're going to print an obscene amount of money. Now, let me talk about obscene. 2008, the Great Recession, literally the closest this country's ever come to a complete collapse of the financial markets. And it was so freaking close. How much money did they print to bail out the Great Recession and all that housing bubble blowing up? How much? $900 billion. That was 2008. Let's fast forward to 2022. COVID, masks, all this stuff that we had to go through. How much money did they print to bail us out of that? $5.1 trillion. Now I know some of you are thinking, yeah, well, there's inflation and 800,000 or 900 billion then and 5.1 and it's not really that big. Yes, it is. It's obscene. $5.1 trillion, you can't even fathom how much money that was. It wasn't necessary to print $5.1 trillion, or was it? Well, if you really peel the onion back, you'll start to understand what happened to that $5.1 trillion. I almost said billion. It's hard for me to fathom a trillion. Well, a couple things that happened. Number one, they sent all of you checks. They weren't for very much, $1,500, and that was supposed to make you be okay because your whole business got shut down. And then they offered PPP loans to businesses that had employees, and they forgave them. That was good because that helped the businesses, the backbone of this country. And then they came up with EDIL loans. They went to the SBA and they gave the ability for them to make loans to businesses at a very low interest rate, 3.25%. So that's where some of the money went, but how much actually went there? Not even close to $5.1 trillion. So what happened to all the rest of it? That money went to various other places, but a lot of that money went right into the capital markets, the central banking system. A lot of that money landed in your bank. Your bank now had a whole bunch of extra money then that they could lend out. And if you remember the other thing the Fed did, Fed and the US government, they pulled the big hammer, okay, the lever. What lever am I talking about? Interest rates. They dropped interest rates to zero. They were even talking about going negative, but they pulled it to zero. So now what did you have? Well, everything was closed down, but the Fed just printed $5.1 trillion. They dropped interest rates down to zero. So they put a whole bunch of money into the system. And then what did they do? They made that money really cheap for you, me, and any business owner and any individual in this country. Really cheap to buy cars. You could buy cars 0% interest. You could buy boats super cheap, planes super cheap, houses super cheap. Everything was a fairy tale world of cheap. Well, because there was $5.1 trillion of extra money out there, plus there was low interest rates, what was the most common thing people did? They bought houses, they bought cars, they bought everything, boats. And that created a massive supply and demand issue because there wasn't enough supply to fulfill the demand because there was all this new money at low interest rates, so cheap money. But now, because of COVID and all the people that didn't go back to work, they took early retirements, they decided, I'm just going to go out and be an entrepreneur. I don't want to work for the man. I want to be the man, whatever you want to call it. There was a massive shortage of labor, which then resulted in a massive shortage of supply. Car prices, they couldn't get chips. So what happened to car prices? They skyrocketed. And then people started actually making money on used cars. They would literally buy a used car a year before and then sell it for more than they did it. When in history can you ever remember when you could make money on the worst investment you're ever going to put money into, called a car? I don't remember ever being able to do that, but now you could, okay? And that was because there wasn't enough supply and the money was easy. So now let's move to what we're talking about, housing. Everybody rushed out to do what? Refinance their house. Why? Because they could get it at I think the lows were in the 2% range on a 30-year. Even 3 was the lowest in history. So they were refinancing their houses, but then they said, honey, let's not refinance. Let's just buy a house out in the country to get away from all this crap. That COVID thing's got me scared. So you had the mass migration out to the suburbs. People were buying bigger houses because they could afford a bigger house. Then all of a sudden you had lots of people change where they live because, hey, now the whole dynamic of the world changed. You no longer had to punch a clock, drive to your office. Now you could just work from home. So if I can work from home, why in the world am I going to stay in this crappy place called California or New York? So a lot of people decided they wanted to get out of those crappy states. So what did they do? They moved to Texas, they moved to Florida, they moved to Salt Lake City, they moved to better places with better opportunities and political freedom, which then created a massive amount of demand in these areas, driving the price through the roof on these properties. So if you owned a house in really anywhere in this country, but specifically the hotbeds, your price of your house has gone skyrocket. I'm in Salt Lake City right now. The housing that we were talking about, you could have bought a house in this neighborhood for $200,000 just a few short years ago. Now this neighborhood's $600,000+. Think about that. The same is true for any other area in this country, even where I live, Buffalo, New York. Now, come on, who wants to live in Buffalo, New York? Do you know housing has gone up about 30% in Buffalo? I can't even understand it. I don't know. Why does anyone want to live here? But the price of housing went up. Why? Because there's demand, because it's cheap money. So now we've just laid the foundation. Lots of money, cheap money, and banks had lots of money to lend out to you, and you bought. Then you also had millennials going from living in apartments to now we can afford a house for less than what our rent is. All of this drove the price of real estate straight through the roof. But unlike 2008, you didn't have the hanky-panky of banks lending money out based on stated income. The banks are playing by the rules. So the argument right now is, where is real estate going to go in the future? Well, let me tell you what I see, because my crystal ball just came back from the repair shop. So when I looked at that sucker, it said, it's going down. Let me explain why. Real estate can't maintain these levels. It's a very simple mathematical calculation. One that a lot of people don't understand, especially realtors and mortgage brokers. Why? Because they make money in real estate, and when it's going up, they make more, and if it's going down, it's not good. So they don't want you to think that this is going to happen. But let me ask you this. Not even a year ago, you could buy a house and get a 30-year mortgage at 3%. Today, because the Fed has been raising interest rates, which I'm going to cover in just a second, Fed's raising interest rates, and now that same house might be 6+%. So 3% to 6%. What happened to the payment? It went up a lot. So the person that could afford a $500,000 house at 3% now cannot afford a $500,000 house. They can afford a $280,000 house. By the math. Banks have rules based on your income, your assets, and the price of the house. So the price of the house that the person could have bought a year ago is now significantly lower. But what's happening to the price of real estate? It's significantly going up. That creates an imbalance. So eventually that pendulum needs to shift, and it's already happening, but you're just not paying attention. Real estate's slowing down tremendously. Refinances? Hardly anybody's doing that now, because why in the world would you refinance at 6+% when a year ago you could do it at 3%? Even though 6% is really not that high in the grand scheme of interest rates in this country, but it's high compared to a year ago. So if people aren't refinancing, when does the bubble burst for the price of real estate? Right now. So I said earlier, what's the biggest opportunity of your lifetime look like? In a year from now, everything that you touch, everything that you own is going to deflate in price. Because inflation, what we are in right now, which is the reason everything's going up, gives way and is temporary to something called deflation, which you should love, but you're not going to love it if you're buying into the fact that everything's going to keep going up. It is not. Your investments in the stock market, they're already going down, and they're going to continue to go a lot lower. A lot of people are like, oh, we hit the bottom, it's going to go back up, and they got excited right now because the markets are going up a little bit. We're August of 2022. It's an illusion. You will still see the stock market fall probably a minimum of another 50%. Now, you can sit there and you can say that's not possible, but you know what? It's not even that it's not possible. It's absolutely probable. If you just look at the charts, it's going to happen. There's nowhere else for it to go. And with the stock market going down, what else is going to happen? People are going to lose their jobs. We're going to be in a recession. Oh, I'm sorry, we are. They have redefined what a recession is. It is no longer 2 back-to-back quarters of declining GDP. Now they've reinvented what a recession is. Funny that they do that, but just take this. We're in a recession, and it will get worse, and it will probably lead to be the next Great Depression. I'm not trying to scare you, folks. I'm trying to get you excited, because with all of this knowledge that you have, you can get ready. You can get prepared. So when people lose jobs, what happens? Their income goes down. When their income goes down, they can't buy the things, so it slows everything down. When they can't buy the things, what happens to the price of things? They have to come down. It's called deflation, not inflation. And when things deflate, the house that you live in right now loses value. If you haven't got the equity out of your house, you never will be able to, because for the next decade, your house will be worth less than it is today. And if you've got a home equity line of credit and that money's just sitting there, there's a good chance the bank will freeze your line of credit if that money's not out working. So now let's bring it back to the opportunity. If you know in a year to 2 years, everything's going to deflate in price, and you know that housing is going to go down, 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 well, then all we got to do is we got to look at what was the opportunity in 2009, 10, 11, 12. And I'll tell you what it was. It was real estate. Has always been real estate. But there's a right time to buy real estate and a wrong time. So when the price of real estate goes down, you should be ready to buy. But you can't be ready to buy if all your money's in assets that are going to be going down when all of this falls apart. You're riding the wrong roller coaster. You see, I don't like riding roller coasters. I like sitting on the sidelines, watching the whole show, laughing and waiting for that opportunity to have. And then I just come in when everybody else is screaming and crying and they're scared. I'm greedy. When others are fearful, be greedy. Right now, there's still too much greed, so it's time to be fearful, which is why I'm making this video. So get ready, folks, because the housing market is going to go down in price. You're going to have the opportunity to buy lots of real estate, and I would highly suggest you look at rentals, because people can't afford houses. So if they can't afford houses, they want to rent. So what should you be buying? Rentals. But at these prices, I would wait till they go down. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well.
Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.